All right, buckle up, because today we are diving headfirst into the world of Czech politics, and specifically the enigmatic Andrej Babiš.
Yeah, this one is interesting.
You've given me a mountain of material on this guy.
It's a lot, yeah.
And one thing is for sure, whether you love him or hate him, Babiš is a fascinating character, and his story, well, it's anything but ordinary.
It's true. What we're seeing with Babiš, it's not just a Czech phenomenon. It's this global trend of business tycoons entering the political arena.
Yeah, like that old saying, if you want something done right.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But with Babiš, it's not just about getting things done. It's about power, influence, and maybe even a little bit of, well, let's just say it, controversy. Unpacking his journey, it can really give us some clues about where Czech society is headed, and maybe even global politics as a whole.
It's like something out of a movie, isn't it?
You could say that, yeah.
One minute you're sealing million-dollar deals in the boardroom, and the next you're on the campaign trail rallying voters. But let's back up a bit. Babiš's story, it starts out far from the halls of power. I mean, this is a guy who grew up in Bratislava, spent part of his childhood in Paris, went to high school in Geneva. Talk about a cosmopolitan upbringing.
Yeah, it's certainly not your average political origin story. And here's the kicker. He's not just fluent in one or two languages. We're talking multilingual to the max. Slovak, Czech, English, French, German, Russian kid. He speaks them all.
Get out. All of them.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That's impressive.
That kind of linguistic skill, I mean, it's not just about communication.
It's about bridging cultural divides, understanding different perspectives, something that's undoubtedly come in handy both in the international business world and later on in his political career.
Okay, I have to hand it to him. That's pretty impressive. Okay. But here's where things take a really interesting turn.
Okay.
His father, a communist functionary, yet Babiš himself was later accused of being an agent for the STB, the Czechoslovakian secret police, during the communist era. Talk about a plot twist.
Now that's Babiš for you, a walking contradiction. Now, to be fair, the court recently ruled that he was rightfully listed as an agent, but Babiš has always vehemently denied these claims, calling it a smear campaign orchestrated by his political opponents. But still, this STB accusation, it's not just some historical footnote. It speaks to this larger pattern in his career. These whispers of shady dealings, a willingness to, let's say, bend the rules to get ahead.
It's like something out of a spy thriller.
Oh, absolutely.
And those accusations, they seem to follow him from the world of espionage right into the business world, especially when you look at Agrifert.
Yeah.
This is where I feel like the conflict of interest alarm bells really start blaring.
Oh, for sure. Agrifert, this massive conglomerate involved in everything from, agriculture and food processing to chemicals and media. It's the foundation of Babiš's fortune.
Yeah.
He takes over after it's privatized in the early 90s, and boom, the company explodes, becoming one of the biggest businesses in the Czech Republic. It's easy to see how that kind of success in the cutthroat world of business could make someone think, hey, why not conquer the political arena too?
And conquer he did. It's really quite incredible how quickly he rose through the ranks. I mean, he founds ANO 2011, becomes finance minister, and then prime minister, all seemingly in the blink of an eye.
It was a brilliant, if you can even call it that, a brilliant political move. ANO, which stands for Action of Dissatisfied Citizens, they positioned themselves as this fresh, anti-establishment party, the antidote to the same old political games. And Babiš, with his business background, this image as a political outsider, someone who wasn't afraid to shake things up, he was the perfect front man. People were fed up with the status quo, they wanted change, and Babiš, he was offering it, along with, of course, a healthy dose of controversy to keep things interesting.
Okay, so we've got Babiš, the business titan, shaking up the Czech political scene. But, and let's be real here, his journey to the top, well, it wasn't exactly a walk in the park.
That might be the understatement of the century.
Right. Every step forward seemed to come with another controversy, another scandal.
And these aren't just your run-of-the-mill political scandals. We're talking allegations of financial maneuvering, media manipulation, you name it. But the one that really grabbed everyone's attention, the one that became synonymous with Babiš's whole career, it's gotta be the Babiš Hnízdo affair. You might know it as the Stork Nest affair.
Stork Nest, okay, that sounds way too adorable for a political scandal. What are we talking about here?
Right, it does sound kind of cute, like something out of a children's book, but try to picture this. You've got this luxury resort and conference center sprawling across the Czech countryside. Sounds idyllic so far, right?
Sure.
But here's where things get a little murky. You see, the Stork Nest, it was originally owned by, you guessed it, Babishi's Agrofert to get their hands on those sweet, sweet EU subsidies meant for small businesses. They allegedly did a little bit of corporate shuffling. They made it look like the stork nest was being run by Babio's family, completely hiding that Agrofert connection.
Hold on. So they basically dressed up this massive corporation as a mom-and-pop shop to game the system.
You got it. And once this scheme came to light, well, you know what hit the fan. Police investigations were launched, Parliament was in an uproar, and Babio, he found himself in some seriously hot water.
I bet. What was his defense?
Oh, the classic. He claimed it was all just a politically motivated witch hunt, an elaborate attempt to discredit him.
Right, the old they're out to get me routine.
Yeah.
But doesn't this all just play into those conflict of interest accusations that have been swirling around him from the very beginning? I mean, this is a guy who, while in office, bought up a significant chunk of the Czech media.
Exactly. The Storkness affair, it's just one piece of a much larger puzzle. His acquisition of the Emeru media empire, which includes some of the biggest newspapers and radio stations in the Czech Republic, it really raised eyebrows.
I can imagine.
People started questioning, okay, are we getting unbiased information? Is the media truly independent when you've got a sitting prime minister with this much control over what people are reading and hearing?
It's a valid concern. Knowledge is power, after all.
Absolutely. And when you control the narrative, you control a lot more than just headlines.
So, with these controversies exploding in the public eye, how are people reacting? Is there any pushback, or are they just letting it slide?
Oh, there's definitely been pushback. Groups like Million Moments for Democracy have organized massive protests calling for Babiš to step down. It really highlighted this deep division within Czech society. You know, on one hand, you've got people who see Babiš as this strong, decisive leader, a successful businessman who gets things done no matter what. And then on the other, you have those who are genuinely worried about the state of Czech democracy with him at the helm.
It sounds like a very divided public.
Yeah, you could say that again.
So we've got Babiš, this really polarizing figure, inspiring both fierce loyalty and some serious distrust. But let's shift gears a bit and dive into his actual policies. What kind of leader is he when it comes to the issues?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. See, Babiš, he's not your typical ideologue, you know, someone who sticks to a rigid set of beliefs. He's more, well, how should I put it? He's adaptable.
Adaptable.
Yeah, some might even say opportunistic.
Okay.
His views on some pretty important issues, well, they've got a way of shifting, which makes him kind of unpredictable on the world stage.
Bit of a wild card.
Exactly.
So give me an example. What's an area where he's been particularly hard to pin down?
Well, take his stance on the European Union, for example.
Okay.
Early on, he was all about it, rapid adoption of the euro, deeper integration, the whole 9 yards. But then, somewhere along the line, he pulls a complete 180.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Starts criticizing the EU, pushing for a more hands-off approach, what he calls a Europe of nations.
So he's not afraid to change his tune if it's politically advantageous.
You got it. And you see that same kind of maneuvering when it comes to Russia.
Interesting.
On the one hand, he condemned the annexation of Crimea, no question about it. But then he turns around and opposes economic sanctions against Russia, even criticizes NATO for not, doing enough.
It's like he's trying to walk this tightrope, condemning the aggression but not wanting to completely alienate Russia.
Exactly.
And speaking of NATO, what about Czech military aid to Ukraine? Has Babiš been supportive of those efforts?
That's another area where his stance has raised some eyebrows. The Czech Republic has been a strong supporter of Ukraine, providing military equipment, humanitarian aid, the whole bit. But Babiš, he's publicly questioned the quality and cost of the munitions being sent. It's led some to question just how committed he really is to Ukraine's defense.
So we see this pattern of, I guess you could say, strategic ambiguity.
You could say that.
Never fully committing to one side or the other.
Right.
And then, of course, there's the accusation that he downplayed the severity of the COVID-19 pandemic, potentially putting lives at risk, all for some political gain.
Yeah, that's a serious accusation.
It really makes you wonder how far he's willing to go to hold on to power.
It does make you wonder.
So here we have him, Andrej Babiš, this complex figure, this shrewd businessman turned politician. He's loved by some, absolutely loathed by others. He's praised for his economic achievements, yet condemned for the corruption allegations. It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. His legacy, it's going to be debated for years to come.
It's a legacy full of twists and turns.
Yeah.
But for now, he's out of office, right?
That's right.
After that unsuccessful presidential bid, and with ANO now in the opposition, I mean, has his grip on power finally loosened? Or is this just a temporary setback?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Remember, this is a guy who thrives on defying expectations. He's a master strategist, and he knows how to play the long game. I wouldn't count him out just yet.
So what are the key things to watch for? What could signal whether Babiš is truly fading into the background, or if he's gearing up for a big comeback?
Well, keep an eye on public opinion. Will those scandals finally catch up with him, or will his populist message continue to resonate?
It's a bit of a popularity contest, but with incredibly high stakes.
You could say that. And then, of course, there's the ever-changing landscape of Czech politics. Can he forge new alliances, exploit those divisions, maybe even reinvent himself once again?
He's certainly proven he's capable of reinvention before. Any other factors that could influence his next move?
Well, the war in Ukraine and the global economy, they're definitely going to play a role. Will his stance on the conflict, particularly that criticism of NATO, will it attract voters or alienate them? And if the Czech Republic experiences economic hardship, well, Babiš might just try to capitalize on that, present himself as the answer to their problems.
So it seems like the future of Andrej Babiš and his influence on Czech politics is still very much up in the air.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder that in the world of politics, things are rarely predictable. This deep dive has given us plenty to think about.
It has.
Where do we go from here?
Well, we keep watching, keep learning, and see what unfolds.
Andrej Babiš, a force to be reckoned with. And that's where we'll leave you today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and we'll catch you on the flip side.